We often think that miniature painting is a majority of precision skills. And it is for sure, but that's clearly not the only thing you need to know to be a good miniature painter. Today I'm going to show you 5 hacks that are going to make you a good painter. Number 1. Use a paper towel. This tip is the one that, personally, increased my level of painting like crazy in only 30 seconds. In fact, I was watching a lot of tutorials from Flamon on his Patreon and trying to replicate his famous NMM effect. At every try, I didn't succeed to manage my paint. There was too much paint for blending, so I diluted it more. But there was too much paint again and again and again. But one day I carefully watched how he was taking the paint from the palette. I saw him drag his brush on a tissue to take off excess paint from his brush. And just after that I tried and it worked really good. By doing that, you only have a little bit of pigment in your brush and not too much water. The paint is more translucent and you can make transitions easily. And an even more cool thing, it also works on paint that is just a little bit diluted. So next time you want to apply a layer of paint or smooth transitions, take your time and use this paper towel trick. Number 2. Building great transitions with minimum skills. This hack doesn't require a special brush, but honestly, it can help a lot. You can use an artist surface brush if you can afford it, but don't worry if you can't. These brushes from Army Painter are pretty similar. In fact, it's the shape of the brush that matters the most for this technique. So the idea is to dab the mini with the brush carefully and slowly to build texture on the miniature. To make it look cool, you should take a triad of paint. For example, here I used a dark blue, a mid blue and then a light blue. This is a triad. You can check on the website of your paint brand which triad of color is recommended. You can also take more colors to have an even more smooth transition. The texture of the paint is really important. We don't use a dry brush for nothing. If you take paint from the pot and apply it directly, it will be a disaster. You should take some paint and then wipe your brush on a paper towel to remove the excess paint. So you start on a black or dark brown undercoat and carefully dab your brush with the darkest color of your triad. You will almost cover the entire area and there will only be just a little bit of black or dark brown in the recesses at the end of this first step. Once this coat is done, you can repeat the step with the next color of your triad. But you need to cover a smaller area than before. That will blend the color and make a great highlight on your miniature. And then the final step with the lightest color is exactly the same process but in an even smaller area. And if you want to make it look even cooler, you can do this highlight only on the top of your miniature. And here is the result. A quick and efficient technique to make your mini looks cool without too much skill. Number 3. The easiest way to blend a transition quickly. I discovered this technique in a panic moment where I made a terrible line of paint on a zone where it wasn't supposed to be. I instantly rinsed my brush and tried to fix the mistake with a clean brush slightly humid. That almost perfectly worked and left a transparent veil on the area that I fixed easily later on. This experience made me want to try the same trick to blend transitions and guess what? It works really well. When you layer up your colors, all you need to do to have a really smooth blend with limited effort is to apply the paint a little bit diluted. Then you rinse your brush in water, drag it a little bit on a paper towel so that the brush is not full of water, but not dry either. And then work on your blade to erase the demarcation line while the paint is still humid. If your paint is dry, that technique won't work. You need to do it quickly, but with a little bit of training, you'll master it. It's kinda like a wet blend, but only with one color. Number 4. How to make your pretty seal looks great when you can't do it with your brush. Well, you use a pencil. This is not really a technique, but it's clearly a hack to miniature painting. If you weren't aware of the existence of this kind of pen, and you rage against your purity seals, you will be really happy. This kind of pen has a really fine tip. There are several sizes, but 0.5 or 0.3 work really well. With this kind of pen, you can draw on every purity seals or anything small really easily. You can find this kind of pen in stores selling stationery. Number 5. This hack is pretty insane and universal for your miniatures, but it requires an airbrush. You could try it with a brush, but honestly, if you are able to do that, you don't need this hack. So you'll need an airbrush and a wash in a browny tone, like Agrax Earthshade from GW. It's not necessary to have a brown tone, you can also do it with a black tone, like Nude Oil from GW. But I recommend you to use shade paints because these paints are already diluted. You can put them directly in the airbrush without diluting them again. These paints are dull, which is good, because it will create a double contrast on your miniature. Let me explain. You put the paint in your airbrush and then apply it with many fine veils from below. You have to wait for it to dry between each coat. This way, each coat can overlap and darken your miniature. Because you apply it from below, it will look like a shadow instantly. It will create two contrasts on your miniature. The first is the light and dark contrast. Because the shade is normally darker than your paint scheme, it will enhance the light parts and create more volume. And the second contrast is about saturation. Because the shade is dull compared to your color scheme, it will enhance the saturated parts. This quick hack will make your miniatures look more realistic in a few minutes only. But don't put too much shade to have the right effect. Otherwise, your entire mini is going to be too dark and everything will blend together and disappear. I hope these tips will help you. Thanks for watching, please subscribe and share this video to your friends. Bye!